Okay, so let me just get to another stopping place here. You said there was some questions to address here. Deuteronomy 4, verse 25. When you beget children and grandchildren, and will have been long in the land, this is still in the land of Israel, you will grow corrupt and make a carved image. So Moshe is talking to people and saying, listen, it's inevitable. One of these days, maybe it's your great-great-great-grandchildren, but somebody is going to do this. Somebody is going to eat of that forbidden tree. Whether it was Adam and Hua or whether it was Cain and Abel, somebody is eventually going to do the wrong thing. And what's the wrong thing? Make a carved image. What was the name of that, Greg, that famous statue?
That I put the Como Berenices.
Yeah, Coma Berenices.
Yeah, that's the it's a constellation, so that's actually the desired one of all nations, right? And
so that's actually Betula. That's Virgo. That's Betula, right?
Well, the one I would post, it was Como Berenices, which is one of the outer constellations. So it shows the baby on the lap, and so that's where the virgin birth, Mary with the baby on her lap, and other religions also have a baby on the lap of the mother God, mother of God or whatever.
Mother of God. Well, just to say, we'd have to, another conversation, not this, we're trying to get to the 10 Commandments, but we'd have to sit there and go back and say, is picturing any imagery of that nature an acceptable thing to do? And why is it then that the Jews have no regard of the Virgin Mary and the birth of the Messiah? Are they trying to be obedient to Deuteronomy 4, and the Christians keep stuffing it down their throat and saying, you'll either swallow this or choke on it and die and burn in hell if you don't? And it's like, oh gosh, Yahweh himself is the one who set up this problem. He tells us to not have any image, then he gives us an image. What are we supposed to do? It's not our fault. Gosh. Okay, anyway, verse 25, Deuteronomy 4. You will grow corrupt and make a carved image, a likeness of anything, and you will do evil in the eyes of Yahweh your Elohim to anger him. Verse 26, I appoint heaven and earth this day to bear witness against you that you will surely perish quickly from the land to which you are crossing the Jordan to possess. You shall not have lengthy days upon it, for you will be destroyed. Yahweh will scatter you amongst the peoples. That's why we're still living in America and Australia and Asia and Africa. We're scattered across the face of the earth. You will be left few in number among the nations where Yahweh will lead you. We're still here today, just so you know, we're living out this thing. There you will serve gods, the handiwork of man, of wood and stone, which you do not see, and do not hear, and do not eat, and do not smell. We're serving phantasms of other people's powers, whether it's money or wealth or politics or military industry. Verse 29. This brings us right here, present tense. Does somebody want to know why we're being fanatical zealots about this stuff? Does somebody want to know why we have apparently turned our back on the Christological regimes who hold up the crucifix and the virgin birth as sculptures? From there you will seek. From where? From being scattered across the face of the earth in the distant future. Merachech is the word for far distant, time, dimension, highly unlikely, from somewhere like the opening of Star Wars in a galaxy far away a long time ago. Well, living in America in 2021 compared to 1500 BC, standing at the edge of the Jordan River, it kind of fits that description. From here, we will seek Yahweh our Elohim and will find him. If, it's conditional, if you search for him, that's what we're doing, with all your heart and all your soul, that's what we're trying to do. Heart and soul. When you are in distress and all these things have befallen you, okay, we've seen all the stuff that has happened over the last 3,500 years, plus what they're threatening to do presently. Biden is going to have people come door to door. They're doing it in India. They're doing it in Canada and in England and New Zealand, Australia. At the end of days, At the end of days, does that mean the end of the world? Not necessarily. It might mean the end of the days of the curse, of the alienation, the 2007 30-year curse. You will return unto Yahweh your Elohim and hearken to his voice. That's what we're doing. That's all we're doing. All this is doing is returning to Yahweh our Elohim and listening, shemaing his kol, kufav lamed, shema bekolo. Okay. Shabbat is the word return. Shabbat ed Yahuwah Eloheka veshemata bekolo. Shabbat is the word return. So why do we keep Shabbat? Because it's the evidence that we've returned to listen to his voice. I find it interesting that it wasn't the devil, but somehow it was Yahweh. He gave us his day of Shabbat, the fourth commandment, which we'll get to in a moment. And then he says, I'm going to let it be taken away by Constantine and the Roman overlords, and for the next 2,000 years held as being nothing by the Christian church. Therefore, it gives you something to return to once you decide to return. So the word teshuvah is return. The root of that's tav shin bet. Shin bet is the word to sit, to return. It means old man. What's an old man? One who comes around the sun, as it were, in that model of the globe, heliocentric. Another time around the sun, you're another year older. So one more time around, one more lap around the track. That's the word teshuv. It also means to sit and dwell. And so the word to have returned is spelled shin bet tav, Shabbat. Shabbat unto Yahweh. Shabbat is the witness that Yahweh is your Elohim. That's the way I can read these first four words. Shabbat is the witness that Yahweh is your Elohim and that we are listening to his voice. So the interesting thing, he plugged into this verse 30 of Deuteronomy 4, that he says, here's a token coin. And this coin, you'll drop it into the meter when you come back. And that's proof that you've listened to me. I've given you this token, you drop it into the meter. What's the token coin? Sit down on the seventh day. That's proof that you're listening to my voice, because I'm going to see to it that all vestiges of my voice has been plugged and eradicated and obfuscated and hidden and taken away, and human laws decreed against you listening to my voice. The Sabbath day completely blown away. But here, you can come back and sit down on Shabbat. That's the token coin that you can cash in and say, here, look, it's evidence that I'm listening to your voice. That's what this says. Shabbat, ayin dalet Yahweh, Elheka ve'shemata bekolo. Verse 31, for Yahweh your Elohim is a merciful Elohim. That's chesed. And he will not abandon you nor destroy you. He will not forget the covenant of your forefathers that he swore to them. He will not forget. Regardless of the fact that it was nailed to the cross and done away with, Yeshua resurrected and came back. Regardless of whether the Shabbat was done away with by the covenant of grace, we have the covenant, the Brit, that's a olam, a elah, a chok, a mitzvot, a mishpat, a balancing of scales, that when you put it in this side, then other things happen. That's mishpat. He gave it as a chok, a rung on the ladder, that when you get to this rung on the ladder, it's like a platform. Shabbat, climb up 6 rungs, and then there's this 7th plateau, the mesa of Yahweh. He won't forget. We can go on, but we'll open it up. You said you had questions or comments that people have written in that they want to talk about, Kurt, and if anybody else wants to put on your camera here and talk, go ahead. We're at the edge of verse 32. We just went through verse 31 of Deuteronomy 4.
Yeah, so I'll read this comment. I may have to edit it out, so I need some space here. But I just wanted to encourage people who are watching these YouTube videos that, some of you are struggling because you feel like you need to keep the Shabbat, like it's on your heart to do it, but your family's coming against you, or maybe your own spouse or your kids or whomever. And I just want to encourage you, just do it, because the Father's more important than them. He just is, and I think everybody who's on this call can testify to how much keeping the Shabbat has meant to them and how much it's really, really changed their lives. So I'm going to read this comment, and I don't think it's uncommon. I think a lot of people feel this way. And I'm not even going to read the guy's name, but it says, I was thinking Saturday is Saturnalia. All of these days are pagan. Isn't Christ the Sabbath now? Isn't this thing spiritual now? And if my Sabbath is Tuesday and hers is Saturday, what is the difference? I rest every day in Christ, physically and spiritually. And then I responded. I thought maybe he was being sarcastic because of his, what do you call that, handle. He says, I don't listen to you guys to come and dishonor you, and I'm not trying to say I'm right or wrong, or I'm right or you're wrong. I just feel that this Sabbath is more spiritual now, and we find rest every day in Yahushua. And trust me, I've done wrong. I've been wrong before. Could be again. I comment on a lot of your videos. I have learned a lot from them. I just feel that a lot of this was of the flesh and now is of the spirit. I deny this flesh every day, and I believe that we are to perfect this walk as we go, opposite of what the churches are preaching, that all we need to do is believe. Love your brother, no dishonor here. So he is under the impression, if I'm reading this correctly, that the Shabbat is a spiritual thing and not a physical thing that we do.
Okay, so an interesting thing, which this is in Deuteronomy 5, where he actually talks about the Ten Commandments itself that we're driving towards here. The last sentence of Deuteronomy 5:15 is talking about the Sabbath day. Deuteronomy 5:16 gets into the next debar, the next commandment matter, talking about honor your mother and father. So the last phrase that he uses here is he says, therefore Yahweh has commanded you to, in this translation says, make the Sabbath day. What it says in Hebrew is la ashot et yom hashabbat. That word ayin shin vav tav. So if we look at the verb of ayin shin hey, and I'll read it from the dictionary. So there's three, you might say, critical verbs that Yahweh uses constantly. It's Shema, Shin Mem Ayin, Shomer, Shin Mem Resh, and then Asha, which is Ayin Shin Hey. And when I say they're critical, they're used all over the place. Shema, Shomer, Asha. Hear, guard, and do. So on the Red Dictionary, page 488, top of the center is Ayin Shin Hey. This is the things that it means. To do, to make, worked, labored, acted, dealt, produced, yielded, performed, accomplish, bring about, caused, affected, appointed, acquired, gained, to spend as one spends time, done, made, produced, performed, accomplished, offered as one offering a sacrifice, observed, used, caused somebody to do, pressed, squeezed, made, formed, done by force, was forced. And then the next entry for Ayin Shin Hey, positive command, Ayin Shin Vav Yod, made, done, accustomed to, fitting, suitable, constraint, compulsion, pressure, squeezing, smoking, burning spices, Ayin Shin Vav Nun, forged or wrought. So you're talking about an iron forge, an iron crucible, but yet Ayin Shin Vav Tav is a picture of blacksmith, putting something in the fire, heating it up with a bellows, and then pounding away with his sledgehammer on the anvil. That's all Ayin Shin Hey. So when he says, and so you will do Shabbat, this is Deuteronomy 5. What did I say? It was 20. Lost my place here. 20, verse 25. No, verse 15. This says you will make the Sabbath day. Okay, this is the benefit of doing this study where you're looking at the Hebrew. This is where we're getting to, is something like this. Somebody says, oh, you're one of those guys that do the Torah. Do the Torah. Do the Torah. That seems like such an empty, shallow, hollow, do the Torah. What does that mean? I've tried to contemplate and ask people, what does that mean? And let's narrow it down to nuts and bolts. Well, this is a perfect opportunity to wrap our minds around that. So you shall do Shabbat. How? What does he expect us to do? Well, listen, if you look at Ayin Shin Hey, even though it's spelled, what was it? Ayin Shin Vav Tav? Lamed Ayin Shin Vav Tav. You have to realize that Ayin Shin Hey is the root. Perform the Shabbat. Well, that's getting up and doing it. He told us to work 6 days, but this word also means to work. Work Shabbat. So does somebody say, oh, he rested on Shabbat? No, he worked. Yahweh made, that's Ayin Shin Hey, 6 days he created stuff, and then he worked, the same verb. He worked what? He worked a rest. He brought about something. What do you bring about? So Shabbat, when I did the Montana 10 Commandments a few years back, one of the videos up on the Erictology.net site, I'm wearing a long, it was very cold. It was freezing outside. I was wearing this long wool kind of a trench coat thing. I went through the 10 Commandments as if they were positive statements of benefit, not, you better not. So this says, press or squeeze. Press or squeeze what? Press or squeeze the Yom Shabbat by absolutely relaxing? That's an oxymoron. That's a complete opposite. How do you offer as a sacrifice by not offering a sacrifice? How do you perform by doing nothing? How do you spend time by not? That's right. He gives us this day of Shabbat like a token of cash to cash in to gain. If we do nothing, it's a way of acquiring more than we can possibly afford. How do we do that? Acted, dealt, produced, yielded, performed. These are all intense activity. And he did this great switcheroo. On this 7th day, he says, I'm going to blow everybody's mind. I'm going to make 6 days in a row, and there's way more in what he did on those 6 days as they line up with the Moedim, which is this, gets into this whole cosmology thing, this whole different reality of what he did and what does it mean to us if we just keep these festivals playing into actual causing something to happen. And then he says the great switcheroo, now do nothing, and that's what makes it all happen. Do nothing is what makes it become something. I spent hundreds of dollars a number of years ago on a DVD recorder and recorded all this stuff. Okay, push the button, pulls out the thing, and yet it would never play. Why? If you look on buried in the instructions was, oh, now you have to hit the final button. Finalize button. I don't see a finalize button. They hit it. If you don't finalize it, nothing you did printed. And you could spend dozens of hours doing all this work, take it out, think you have a product because it said it recorded, but if you don't hit finalize, joke's on you, it won't work. Well, right after that, everything went digital. Now we have flash drives. So the whole expense of purchasing a machine and trying to put the Erictology class and all this other stuff on DVDs was a bust, because now we have on flash drives. What I'm saying is that the Yom HaShabbat is like the finalize button. You can spend all week working and slaving and 10 years and 20 years into it. And it's like, damn, nobody gave me this finalize code. Sit down on the 7th day. What a sneaky trick. Why would he do that? Because he's held it till now to make it evident. But now, and you bring up a wonderful point. I'm glad, Kurt, that you brought up this subject that this guy mentioned, because I know I have some friends who are on the 7th day cycle of looking at the moon. Is that the way he did it? I could give you a whole explanation as to validate that. We don't have time to do it right now. That's another conversation. It might be the truth. For all I know, they're right, but I don't know. I don't know. I've gotten information that said, listen, we know that ever since the Garden of Eden, it was the seventh day and they sat down and rested. And then there was 7 more days and they were told to sit and rest. And 7 days they were supposed to sit and rest. And then when the proof of it that really locked it in was when Yahweh made the manna showed up. There was 7 days and then there was double of on the 6th day and none on the 7th. He said, okay, that proves that's the Sabbath day. Okay, got it. Yeah, but what about the lunar Sabbath? Did he have that in? I don't know. When Yeshua rose from the dead, also locked it in. First day of the week, okay, we could go back and look all that as a study. But then I heard back in the days of Rome, they were actually keeping an 8-day week, and that the Jews were keeping the lunar Sabbath, and that the heads of the Jews and the heads of the Romans got together and said, listen, let's just negotiate a treaty here. The Romans will back off from the 8-day week and let it be a 7th-day week, but the Jews get the Saturday, Saturnalia day, and the Romans get Mithra, the sun god day. Are you guys okay with that? Okay, then forever there forward, they'll roll with it. Did we inherit that? I don't know. I don't know. So I've got some logical conflict with synchronizing the days going with the lunar Sabbath. Some things just don't seem to fit. We could discuss that on another occasion. But to those who it does seem to fit, and they want to hold to that, so that if they have a lunar Sabbath on a Tuesday this month and on a Wednesday next month, sooner or later, every 6-7 months, you'll end up with everybody on the same Shabbat. Okay, but I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to punch anybody in the face. I'm not going to even go there, because the people that I know who keep the lunar Sabbath do it with full integrity. Just like I know that when I was a kid, the people that kept the day of the Sunday did it with all their heart, with full integrity. Am I going to say, aha, you guys missed it, you're going to burn in hell? This isn't a matter of burning in hell. Yes, Yahweh said, this is the sign that you're listening. This is the sign that you're my people. So the Seventh-day Adventists say, if you're not keeping the Shabbat, you're going to burn in hell because you're not his people. And it's like, okay, well, maybe some of them didn't say that, but the other ones did. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about how did people get it wrong for the last 2,000 and 3,000 years. What's it really supposed to be? Number one, we're looking at choose life, ket tet yod. Okay, enter the fence of the kingdom of Yahweh. Okay, if we're all on that page, number two is, what did he say? That's Kaf Lamed, that's Festival of Unleavened Bread. Big white fence is choose life. What did he say? He said, keep the 7th-day Sabbath. That's the barbecue grill. Okay. Take it to heart. That's the labor. Take it to heart. And if you say, I don't give a ratas pututi, or some people might call it a rat's ass, but if you don't give one, if you don't even care, if you don't even give one about this, then you're not taking it to heart. Now, if you're really taking it to heart and you're trying to say, I just want to know, what did he say? Well, now you've got the menorah, and that lines up with putting the stars in the sky and the sun and the moon. And so now it has to do with trying to figure out timing. And if he hasn't made it clear to us yet, some people have this understanding, some people have that understanding. The word literally spelled somic ayin. If you look at these letters in the dictionary, it means to diversify like a manifold, like the shape of the menorah, which is to say this one pipe branches into half a dozen other pipes, like from an intake manifold on a car engine or an exhaust manifold where you got these headers. And it's like to diversify, to split into all these different camps and all these different ideas. And it's like he has designed this on purpose. The book of Jubilees, chapter 6. The children of Israel will forget. We've done that. Woohoo! We played into prophecy. On another occasion, we can discuss this if you'd like. It would be a worthwhile discussion. What I'm saying is that I'm not going to kick anybody in the face if they are a lunar Sabbath keeper. You want to have a conversation? Sure, let's have a real heartfelt conversation. Nobody putting each other down, just like flat earth, round earth. We're just trying to figure out what he gave us. Okay. But we have to get to the point where we want to be in his ways, or else it's not worth having the conversation. So we can stage stepping through this Mishkan pattern as a way of saying, dear Abba Yahweh, Avenu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, will you please show us the right day to keep? Not only for the Moedim, but for your Yom HaShabbat. We want to, we're willing to, regardless of what that means. I tried keeping the lunar Sabbath for a while, and it was, gosh, talk about throwing a monkey wrench in the middle of the transmission. Whew, pretty tough. But so was keeping the Sabbath day at all, even on Shabbat, on Saturday. Saturday has nothing to do with Saturnalia, although they both start with SAT. If you look at various different languages, the word for Saturday has to do with like sábado in Spanish, Sabbath. All kinds of discussion. That should be its own discussion. But it's a great question. I'm glad you answered it. But here, let me.
I'd like to
So
add-
just to be clear, we're saying it's not just a spiritual thing. It's a physically do it thing.
Oh yeah. See, here's the thing. Going back to Genesis 1, when he made the Sabbath day, it says he, English called it holy or sanctified it. It's the word he made it kadosh. So whatever that kadosh value is, it's only on that day. And we can mistakenly call it another day, and you only get the points for when it hits the target. Yeah, but I meant to hit the target. Yeah, but if you didn't hit the bullseye, it doesn't count. So I know somebody, and I know people who say every day is the Sabbath day. He said, you will make the Sabbath. What is the Sabbath? The one day set apart. He said, remember it and make it kadosh, make it sacred, make it set apart. It's just like every day. Well, then it's not set apart and it's not sacred and you didn't remember. Well, yeah, but what am I supposed to do? Hey, do what he said to do. He said, don't work. Yeah, but does that mean I can go to a restaurant? Are you working? No, they are. Are they your servants? No, they're somebody else's servants. He said, you don't work and your servants don't work. Yeah, but does that mean I can go to a restaurant? I'm not even going to go there. That's another discussion also. Hey, can I go to the lake and lay and paddle around on a boat on the water? Are you paddling? Is that working? That's a verb. The Jews will say, don't do it. How did you get the boat in the water? Did you have to pick it up and carry it? That's working. But I know people who like to do that because it's very relaxing. I'm not even going to answer that question either. Maybe it is good. Maybe it ain't good. I'm not going to even answer that question. He said, remember and commemorate and set it apart. Yom HaShabbat. Remember and make it. Those are the two verbs. And if you do remember and make it, then you will acquire something. You will force something to happen, like hitting the finalize button that otherwise would have never happened. And if you hit the finalize button at the wrong time, you're not going to get the same result. What's the right day? Please, Yahweh, show us and tell us. Make it clear. So here we are. We're just at the place of, well, we've been here for 20 years now. We're at the place of coming back to his word with a full heart, with all our heart and all our soul, and we really want to know. That's where we're at. Drops us into verse 31 of Deuteronomy 4. For Yahweh your Elohim is a merciful Elohim. He will not abandon you nor destroy you. He will not forget the covenant of your forefathers that he swore to them. So inquire now regarding the early days that preceded you. Just look back through history. From the day when Yahweh created man on the earth. Hey, that's going back to Genesis 1. And from one end of heaven to the other end of heaven, has there ever been anything like this great thing or anything like it that has been heard? Has a people ever heard the voice of Elohim speaking from the midst of the fire as you have heard and survived? So for this lady to say the other day, all religions are the same, they're all equal, that's not true. They're not all equal. She hasn't gone back to listen to what this is about because she was raised in the church, but somehow she missed this. Deuteronomy 4, 33, 34. Or has any God ever miraculously come to take for himself a nation from amidst a nation? That's like pulling the seed out of the avocado without worrying about the rest of the avocado. The rest of the avocado gets damaged, but you just reach in and pull out the seed and says, this part's mine. With challenges, with signs, with wonders, with war, with a strong hand, with an outstretched arm, with awesome deeds, such as everything that Yahweh, your Elohim, did for you in Egypt before your eyes. And you can plug that into the Mishkan pattern. Challenges, signs, wonders, war, strong hand, outstretched arm, awesome deeds. That's another part of the study, but that's one place where the Mishkan pattern is found. You have been shown in order to know, this is the upshot of all that he did with all those 10 plagues and all his promises and all the events, was to know that Yahuwah, he is the God, as it said here. He is Ha Elohim. There is none beside him, except for our God who sits right next to him. Don't! What do we do with that? There's only one God and there's nobody beside him, except our God who's sitting right next to him, who's his son. Yeah, something wrong with that. You have been shown all of this in order to know. And when he says, you will come back to these words, I command you today, there is one only Elohim, Yod He Vav He, Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel, and there's no other. There's nobody beside him. His words, what does he mean by that? We are trying to align our consciousness to his words, not just blend and amalgamate favorite doctrines and idol images. Verse 36, from heaven he caused you to hear his voice in order to teach you. Again, no image, a voice. Words, 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 words. Teach these words to your children and grandchildren. Words, 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 words. I'm not making a big to-do of his language. He is. It's all about his words. Oh, except what about the fivefold ministry of the prophets and apostles and evangelists and pastors and teachers? Oh, the teachers is the low rung on the totem pole there. What are they teaching? Are they teaching his words? Yeah, let's teach about how to go up to heaven and have condos and apartments and how to have all these signs and wonders and fireworks and cloud riders. Maybe even see Enoch standing right next to you or talk to Jesus himself. Maybe you'll even see fiery Hebrew letters, but is it about Yahweh's instructions to his people to do chok and mishpat? It's the bottom line of everything, with all your heart and all your soul. From heaven, he caused you to hear. His voice came down to us on earth. He didn't drag these people up into heaven. Even Moshe never got off of Mount Sinai. There's a lot of people going up to heaven these days, and I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm not saying flat earth or round earth is wrong. I'm not saying lunar Sabbath or consecutive Sabbath is wrong. I'm saying there's a lot of confusing things going on these days, and I personally don't know what to make of it. I hear a lot of things. I know what's going on around us. There's a lot of smoke and a lot of mirrors. I'm looking for the pillar of fire, pillar of smoke. It's a little different. He caused you to hear his voice in order to teach you. And on earth, he showed you his great fire, and you heard his words from the midst of the fire. Same thing happened to Moshe. He heard Yahweh's words from the midst of the fire when the bush was on fire. And remember, just like that noon samach, the bush, hey, samach, noon, hey. The samach is an engineered structure like the orthography, the shape of the letter, and the noon is this spark of life, like the meaning of the letter, the meaning of the word. So there's something about hearing his words through the structure of the written language that causes us to hear his voice. Because he loved your forefathers and chose his offspring after him, that's us, took you out from before himself with great strength from Egypt. Deuteronomy 4, verse 38 here, to drive away from before you nations that are greater and mightier than you, to bring you and give you their land as an inheritance as this very day. That's our hope. That's our vision. That's what we hold on to. Doesn't matter how big and bad the warlords of the nations are, whether they look like Kissinger, Bush, Clinton, Obama, Queen Elizabeth, some guru, some Gates, and it doesn't matter. He's empowered the Nephilim and Raphaim and Anakim to be giants, fierce and terrible, with amazing weapons and amazing citadels and castles. He's going to build them up so big, he's going to knock them down. Look what he did to Og and Sihon. Look at the monsters that he gave Daniel the vision of. 4 great beasts. And Yahweh says, look, I want a war. I'm going to have, you look at some Marvel comics, movies, or these, I don't even know, Transformers, these giant robotic monsters. Yahweh says, even they're too puny for me. I want to put on a show, man. I'm going to put on a show. So he let Egypt be the biggest, baddest nation on the earth. Then he said, Nebuchadnezzar is my drawn sword. Yeah, he used Nebuchadnezzar as his sword to wipe out other peoples, including his own people, but also he had Nebuchadnezzar be the challenge as Yahweh's counter. He says, come on, I need a tough guy, and I can punch him in the nose, and has his hair go on fire like fireworks, like throwing a balloon and hitting the clown at the carnival, and ding, 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 and everything going off. Yahweh needs a contender. Yeah, give me Egypt and Assyria and Nebuchadnezzar. And it's like, they're still not big enough for Yahweh. Yahweh wants to put on a show. Okay, let him put on a show. We are not supposed to be intimidated by these very intimidating monsters. That's what this is about. He is Elohim. There's none beside him. He used Egypt to show his great strength. Verse 39, you shall know this day and take it to your heart. Once again, take it to your heart. That's our job. Our battle is hearing his words and taking them to heart. That Yahweh, he is the Elohim in heaven above and on the earth below. There is none other. So for us to say, I'm not going to acknowledge that Jesus is God is not because I'm defaming the Mashiach. I'm trying to give honor to him by giving honor to Yahweh, his Father and our Father, his Elohim and our Elohim. Yeshua used those words speaking of Yahweh, and we're trying to do him honor by acknowledging only Yahweh. Verse 40, you shall observe his decrees and his commandments that I command you this day, so that if then you do this, then he does that. He will do good to you and your children after you, so that if then you will prolong your days on the land that Yahweh your Elohim gives you for all the days. Then this is where, did Moshe write this or somebody else? Verse 41, then Moses set aside 3 cities on the bank of the Jordan. This is just like this interlude, this parenthetical injection of what do you mean he set apart 3 cities on the bank of the Jordan toward the rising sun, or the east. So for a killer to flee there, the guy who did manslaughter, who didn't have hatred in his heart, who will have killed his fellow without knowledge, but who was not an enemy of his from yesterday and before yesterday, he shall flee to one of these cities and live. Bezer in the wilderness, in the land of the plain of the Reubenite, Ramoth in the land of Gilead of the Gadite, and Golan in the Bashan of the Manassite. This is the teaching that Moshe placed before the children of Israel. These are the testimonies, the decrees, and the ordinances. So here, if you want that, you're going to say this is the teaching. This is the ayin dalet, tav would be the plural. This is the het kuf, yod mem is the plural, and these are the mishpat, mem shin pei tet, yod mem makes plural. That Moshe spoke to the children of Israel when they left Egypt on the bank of the Jordan, in the valley, opposite Beth Peor, in the land of Sihon, king of the Amorite, who dwells in Heshbon, whom Moshe and the children of Israel smote when they went out of Egypt. They possessed his land and the land of Og. These are the 2 great giants that Yahweh took out. King of the Bashan, who just left as these 2 testimonies of what he would do to everybody else, only his people quickly forgot and were afraid. 2 kings of the Amorite, which are on the bank of the Jordan where the sun rises. That would be on the eastern side of what's now Jordan, where a couple of the tribes wanted to stay there and not cross over into what you might call the promised land on the west bank. From Aror, that is by the shore of Ammon Brook until Mount Salem. This is just geography, which is Hermon. But if you read into these words and meanings, you'll find something else, which we won't get into. And the entire Arabah, the eastern bank of the Jordan, until the sea of the Arabah, under the waterfalls of the cliffs. Now, Deuteronomy 5. Moshe called all of Israel and said to them, Shema Israel, hear, O Israel, the decrees and the ordinances I speak in your ears today. Learn them, be careful to perform them. Careful to be careful is shomer, and to perform is ayin shin hey, that same verb again. Yahweh our Elohim sealed a covenant with us at Horeb. Not with our forefathers did he seal the covenant, which is actually the previous generation, which he did. So he's making it present tense. He said, but with us. That word Horeb means dry, wasted ruin. Why would he use Horeb? That's the word harb, which is the word for slaughter or sword. It's kind of like he's saying, this is what you have. We have either ruin and getting wasted, or we have erudite scholarship. Those are the 2 sides of the teeter-totter. Take your pick. It's like, gosh, well, here, erudite scholarship. No, verse 4, Deuteronomy 5. Face to face did Yahweh speak. What? Face to face? I thought Yahweh's face never appeared to anybody. So here it's metaphorical face, more of a conversation. From amid the fire, I was standing between Yahweh and you at that time to relate the words of Yahweh to you, for you were afraid of the fire, and you did not ascend the mountain, saying, and here we get into 10 commandments. I am Yahweh Eloheka. Anoki Yahweh Eloheka. That's the first matter. So we'll go through them real fast and then open it up to you guys. Number one, a matter of identity. I'm Yahweh Eloheka. I took you out of the land of Egypt from the house of slavery. 2, Lo yayilacha Elohim achrim al panei. We can go into that more fully, but it means do not, says don't recognize or don't allow there could be or cause there to be any other God or gods of others. It's Elohim achrim, and the word achar means future, next, delayed, late, delayed in coming. That's like, 1,500 years from now, if some other God shows up like Jesus and claims to be your God, don't recognize him. Don't allow it to be. Is Jesus a God? Is he an Elohim achrim? If he comes later in the future by 1,500 years saying different things, looking different, like he has a face and Elohim doesn't have a face, he's giving different words and Yahweh or Elohim doesn't have different words, and he's an Elohim achrim. If he looks like a person, achar, ach is the word brother. He's one of our brothers, but he looks like a God. That's the problem. And it's not us who are defaming and blaspheming Jesus Christ. It's us giving priority to the words of Yahweh because he said to return to these words. He's the one who set us up for this conflict and this controversy. Number one, his identity. Number two,
Eric, you got to stop for a second.
And don't make any other carved image. Number 3, don't take his name in vain. Number 4, safeguard the Sabbath. Number 5, honor your mother and father. Then the other 5.
Eric, can you stop for a second? Somebody just is sharing their screen. I don't know who it is.
Oh, okay.
Somebody has to shut their screen off.
Somebody on a cell phone, looks like.
I don't know whose phone that is.
They're in the East Coast.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll be done here in a
you.
moment, then we can open up to you guys. Whoever it was who's on the call wants to say something, you're welcome to say something. But here, I was just trying to lay out the 5 to look at the 5 opposite. So if the 5 are his identity, don't recognize any other Elohim, which includes don't making an image. Number 3, don't take his name in vain. Number 4, keep the Sabbath day. Number 5, honor your mother and father. So what are the other 5 that are opposite? Don't kill, don't commit adultery, don't steal, don't bear vain witness, and don't covet. So that's how the 5 interplay with each other. Okay, go ahead. Open it up to you guys.
Everybody can turn their cameras on. Who's the guest? Who's new? Who just joined the call? I want to say hi to you. I don't know who you are. It just shows as guest. Hey, Sally. You're downstairs.
Sally just joined.
Your mic's
Had
off.
to take care of
Sorry, go ahead.
had to take care of Evelyn, so I'm looking forward to watching this again.
That's good.
The last part, I was just like, hallelujah, hallelujah. Yeah.
Does anybody else want to jump in there?
Well, I wanted to say something, if I could, about just the issue of the Sabbath, as it was brought up earlier. Oh, hi, Evelyn. Because in Exodus 20, it uses the word remember the Sabbath, and that's zakar. And so I know you've talked about this before, but when I looked that up, the first time that word is used is in Genesis 1:27. And it says, So in the Stone Stock, it says, so God created man in his image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them. And so that word male is zakar.
Yep,
And the first time I looked at that, I was just thinking to myself, how can this word zakar mean male? But, it means like perpetual memorial going forward, something that is, showing forth what the image that you're in is of, right? So it says he made him in his image, male. And so when you remember the Sabbath, you really are like you're remembering, you're in a memorial perpetually going forward of the image that you're made in. And then if you think about even the other Sabbaths, they're all zakron, like they are memorials, like not so much as commands, but they're memorials perpetually going forward. And I think it's really interesting too, that when you keep this Shabbat, especially the 3 that we're all supposed to go to, right? It doesn't say everyone, it says all your males will appear, all your zakar. So I just, I don't know. It's like you're keeping a memorial and it shows who your father is. I mean, if you think about that, it's like a perpetual memorial going forward that really just shows who your father is. So as that pertains to lining up with the 10 commandments, it lines up to, it would line up to don't bear false witness, right, against your neighbor. And if you think about that, if it's a perpetual memorial of who your father is, and then you're bearing a false witness again, because he didn't say, he said, these are my days. So that's his testimony. His testimony is that this is my Shabbat, not a different day. So if you're saying that, Yahuwah's testimony is that his day is on a different day than it actually is, you're bearing a false witness, and you're showing that you have a different father in a way, So I just thought that was interesting. And we were talking about the Sabbath because that question came up.
Let me throw this one other piece in here. At the end of the whole 10 Commandments thing in the chapter of Exodus, starting with Exodus 20, it comes to a conclusion. He gave different commandments also besides the 10, but it gets into Exodus 31, and I believe you also mentioned Exodus 34, but Exodus 31 is right before Exodus 32, which was the golden calf, where they just totally blew it. And remember, when they did the golden calf, Aaron built the calf and then said, a festival for Yahweh tomorrow. It's like I believe he even wrote the name Yahweh on the calf. And it's like, what are they thinking? Well, they didn't change their heart. They didn't say, hey, we're going to have another God. Yahweh just took us out of Egypt and he just gave the 10 Commandments. Woohoo! Let's go worship Molech or Dagon, to the gods of the Canaanites. There's no. Let's keep celebrating Yahweh, but in even a more special way, kind of like Nadab and Abihu with he gave us a certain protocol, but let's have incense burners too. That's even more special. It's like putting ice cream on your pie or to infinity and beyond. It's like Leolam, Vayad, hey, that's all. But he said here, go back to 31, Exodus 31, verse 12. Remember, he just gave them all these commands, and then he reiterates. Go back. He said, Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, now speak to the children of Israel, saying, however, you must observe my Sabbath. Observe? That's the word shomer. How do you observe? Go back to the word asah. Remember, Shema, shomer, asah. Study those 3 verbs. It's like, how you keep it is up to you. I'm not going to come into your house and bust your chops and knock everything off your table saying you lit a candle and you weren't supposed to, or you have a special food that I don't think is. You make Shabbat. You keep Shabbat. You do something about remembering Shabbat. He said, you must observe my Shabbat, for it is a sign between me and you for your generations to know I am Yahweh who makes you kadosh. You shall observe Shabbat, for it is kadosh to you. Its desecrators shall be put to death. Whoever does work on it, that soul shall be cut off from among its people. For 6 days work may be done. The 7th day is the day of complete rest. It is sacred to Yahweh, or kadosh to Yahweh. Whoever does work on the Sabbath day shall be put to death. Verse 16 of Exodus 31. The children of Israel shall observe the Sabbath, to make the Sabbath an eternal covenant for their generations. Between me and the children of Israel, it is a sign forever that in a 6-day period, Yahweh made heaven and earth, and on the 7th day he rested and was refreshed. When he finished speaking to him on Mount Sinai, he gave Moshe the 2 tablets of testimony, stone tablets inscribed by the finger of Elohim. And that word finger that I said is the same as the word color is spelled Aleph, Zadi, Bet, Ayin. So you can look up in the dictionary. Bet is the prefix, Aleph, Zadi, Bet, Ayin. Zeva. Zadi Bet, remember, is the word for military force also. But here's what I'm saying. This is the conclusion of the whole 10 Commandments thing. The following verse, he said, okay, I'm finished. Here's the 10 Commandments I'm handing to you. So not only did he give the 10 Devarim and then give all the other, between chapters 20 and 30, he gave 10 other chapters of talking about instructions. He then reiterated again the Sabbath day and its extreme importance. For us to make a big deal out of this day is not to Judaize or to go back under the law or promote Seventh-day Adventism. But it's to say Yahuwah himself said it is a sign forever. And even if we forget, he will not forget. So anyway, Julie, I know you were just talking and my mind was wrapped in this. Will you kind of summarize again for the sake of the appropriateness of the subject? Summarize again what you're saying.
Yeah, I guess I was just saying that in the first, so in Genesis or in Exodus 20, he uses the word remember the Sabbath. And that word is zakar. So you've talked about the idea of zakar before. But when I looked up that word, the first time I saw that it was used was in Genesis 1:27. And it says, so God created man in his image. In the image of God, he created him male and female. He created them. So he created them, male is zakar. He created them zakar. And so I was just kind of meditating on that and thinking, like, why is the word remember the same as the word for male? You know, like if you just think about that, it doesn't initially make sense, but it really does, because it's the place, even a male, is where the remembrance of you going forward can come from. It's like a forward perpetual remembrance of you and who you are. And he made them in his own image. So it makes perfect sense for zakar to mean male and for it to mean remember.
Right.
It's
Now,
like,
do you have the Red Dictionary? Are you familiar with this?
yeah. Oh yeah, I have it.
Have you looked up the word zakar in the dictionary?
Yeah.
Page 198. So are you also familiar with the burning bush, where Yahweh calls his name Yahweh his zakar name?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying this for people who may not know. When Moshe, in Exodus 3, where Moshe said, who shall I say sent me? He said, tell them Ehyeh sent you. Aleph He Yod He. And then he says, Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh, which is translated, I am that I am. But then he says the word Yod He Vav He, which is a different spelling. It's still using Hades and Vavs and Yods, so it still means to exist, but he says it's going to be his Shem Zakar, right? And so that word Zakar means memorial name, or to commemorate, or to remember. So we could take your same question, Julie, and say, he told us that Ehyeh was his name, but he told us that Yahuwah is the name to remember. Well, why would he do that? What does he mean by that? So, and this is for the benefit, I know people have said that they don't have access to the Red Dictionary. It is online now. You can access the Red Dictionary by Ernest Klein's Etymological Dictionary of Hebrew, published by Carta, Jerusalem. Somebody did photo each page. I don't know if you can flip through it so easy. It's better, I think, to have it in hand. But nevertheless, you can access, and I sometimes reference page numbers so you can go right there. But if you look at the word on page 198 in the middle of the page, zakar, Zion Kaf Resh. Zion is the 7th letter. not the zadi. Okay, it says it means to remember. And it says, Klein says, according to some scholars, the original meaning of the base of the word would mean to have been to prick or pierce, like a thorn catches your clothing if you walk through the brush in the woods, to fix in one's mind, which is then to remember. To call to mind, to mention, remembered.
Recollect.
To recollect or to offer a memorial sacrifice. So the same way we in America have the Memorial Day, or
Sorry, the
Veterans.
guest is raising their hands, so I don't know if they want to make a point
Yeah,
right there.
go ahead. Whoever's raising your hand, go ahead.
Why don't you finish your point first? You're interrupted.
Okay, it also, the next word means to be born male or to treat as masculine, to prick or to pierce, remembrance, memory, name, association is a Zion Kafresh Hey. So that teaches you, as you're reading through the dictionary, it teaches you how the prefixes and suffixes work. Of course, if you look at Zion Kaf, there's no prefix. You'd have to stick other prefixes like an aleph, a bet, a yod, a kaf, a lamed, a mem, nun, kaf, shin. If you could look up the same word zakar with those other letters, and it'll show you the way the prefixes affect. It means association, zakra. So if you have a group of people, like a veterans association, okay, well, people that get together and remember certain things. It also means a zakrot is a male organ or the pointed side of a tool. So if you have a pickaxe, it's got a long point on one side, and sometimes it's another pointer, and sometimes it's a blade, but it pierces into the earth so that you can rip open the soil and plant a seed. It's a seed planting tool. So somehow the word Yod-Vav-He is a seed planting masculine apparatus that perpetuates the masculine paternal family name. Zakrini is a forget-me-not. That's a type of plant. Or otherwise, remember me. Remember me. That's like sending somebody a greeting card or a birthday card, or here, wear a necklace that says, just please remember me. Remember me, forget me not. Yod-He-Vav-He, somehow he instituted as a device, like a paternal name. A paternal name is a family name. Does that mean it's the name of the father? Like my father's name was William, but the family name is Bissell. So what was my father's name? Is Yahweh a memorial family name? So is Yeshua Yahweh? Well, if he carries his father's paternal name, it would be not Jesus Christ, but Yahuwah, Yahusha ben David ben Yahweh. I mean, could you say that? Well, yeah, it's the family name. So we're all ben Yahuwah. Well, wait a second. Is that what he meant? Well, that's what the name means. And he says that his name, if you read closer in Exodus 3, that it'll perpetuate Lador Dor. That's generation after generation. Well, that's what DNA is. DNA perpetuates you might say, the code or the traits of the family throughout the various generational permutations or expressions of variations throughout the era. So going back there, Julie, what you're saying, that's just another contemplation about what it means to be male. I
Right.
think you could say one more thing, just to throw this in real quick, and then we'll get to the person that has their hand up. Look at the spelling of the word. Yod, He, Vav, He. What's He, Vav, He? Well, a He is a witness, a testifier. Why is the masculine apparatus called the connecting device, which is the zakar with the testifiers that contain the DNA, which use the connecting device to plant the seed? He, Vav, He is like this, people say, well, the churches are askew because they have steeples, which are phallic symbols. He, Vav, He is a giant phallic symbol. How much more clear could it be?
The thing and that's why I think it's so appropriate that it ties into the 10 Commandments, which I'm sure you're going to talk about later, where it's literally lined up with don't bear a false witness against your neighbor. Only in this case, your neighbor is Yahuwah. Like you can't bear a false witness about when his Sabbath is. Like
That's a
why
great
those line
point.
up.
If you intentionally choose the wrong day, you've got fake genetics. You've got altered DNA. You've got bad seed.
Well, this is what you were mentioning with the golden calf. Aaron said, "This is Yahuwah who brought you out of Egypt," and he was saying, "This is the calf. This is who brought you out was the calf," and this is just like the primary definition of syncretism. Even when they brought in the Samaritans, they mixed in all these other religions, and that's what Christianity has brought to us. Just a mixture, a bag of all these other faiths and ways of doing things, and saying, well, everything is holy, nothing is nothing is separate, nothing is set apart. Everything just, we decide whenever we want to make this day holy or that day holy, or this is how we see God, or this is how we see him. And that's just the very definition of, that's the sin that Israel committed was, hey, we're just gonna, we'll do a little bit of this, but we want to do some of this too, the way the other nations are doing it. And so now within that mind frame, that gnosis, that Greek knowledge, that nothing, that the way the Gnostics thought was, nothing physical, everything physical is unholy. And so, everything's spiritual now. And so we don't have to do anything in the physical realm, but it's our physical realm that we manifest the spiritual realm.
Just to play into that real quick, and I'm not trying to be gross, I'm just trying to be almost humorous about this. When we were kids, we had this thing called Mr. Potato Head, right? And you took a potato and you stuck, eyeballs and nose and arms and legs or whatever on the thing. And you might say that when Yahuwah was making Adam, he took the earth and he makes Adam, the torso, the arms and legs, and the arm and the head and the eyeballs and nose and mouth, and he's saying, I gotta plug one other thing on here. So he sticks this Yod Hey Vav Hey, or this Hey Vav Hey on Adam. And I remember hearing somebody once say they died and went to heaven. True story, Dr. Eby, I believe this was, and he looks at his body to say, hey, what have I got now? He died and went to heaven, and he's in some kind of an afterlife place. He came back to life on earth and wrote this book called Didn't You Read My Book? That's another story. But he gets there and he says, hey, what do I look like? Because we're given our bodies. We as humans didn't decide to dress up with a face that looks like this as compared to a dog or a cat or a lizard. He gave us this. And so he gave Adam, and if the first thing when you wake up as a baby, say, hey, what do I got here? Or you get to heaven, hey, what kind of a body do I have? Hey, I got wings, I can fly. I can just think and fly. I don't even need wings or whatever it might be. So Adam wakes up, and as soon as he gets it, he looks down, so, oh, what's this? I got this hey vav hey, and Yahweh says, hey, I want you to cut off the top 10%. What? That's right, tithe the yod of your vav, young man. What? Well, that's circumcision. So you could look at yod, the yod of the hey vav hey as this circumcising of your carnal nature. Is it a sin to be male? Is it a crime to have passions and desires as a human being? No, although there's plenty of people that would like to cast that stigma as our shame and guilt, you might say. But I'm just saying it's interesting that Yahweh made Adam like a Mr. Potato Head, and then stuck on this little fleur-de-lis, as it were, of, sorry to disparage the French there, Mark, but if you know what a fleur-de-lis looks like, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I'm just saying it's a bit of humor. And then for him to say, now circumcise that thing, so every time you make use of it, you remember, I'm the boss, you're not. You've got a higher authority to yield to. Is that why he did it? Is that why in modern Hebrew, the top of the shape of the letter Vav is exactly the shape as the Yod? It's this little flame apparatus. I'm just saying it's fair game to look in the language, to look at what he built, to look at his instructions, weave them all together. And why did he call Yod Vav Hey is Shem Zakar? There's stuff there. There's meaning there. Okay, whoever it is that's got your hand up and want to talk, go ahead.
Somebody's showing up as
To me, when I see the word zakar, besides meaning male, it means to speak and act on behalf of. In other words, not only remember, but remembering and not doing anything about it isn't very good. So to speak and act on behalf of, whether it's Sabbath, whether it's his word, his commandments or whatever, and that's our mandate as believers and followers, believers in his Torah. Our mandate is to speak it out to people. Now, not everybody's going to receive it, of course, but yeah, go ahead, Garrett.
Yeah, where I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, but where do you get that zakar? Can you get from the dictionary? Do you get it from understanding the words? Where do you get the phrase to speak on behalf of? How do you come up with that meaning?
From what I got out of the dictionary.
I don't see it. Could you tell me where that is, just so we know?
Yeah, it says he remembered, called to mind, he mentioned, was remembered, was mentioned. So in other words, not only is it to call to mind, but to mention, speak and act on behalf of.
Okay, great. I just need to know how your thinking goes to make that connection, because I didn't see those words.
Okay, to me, the word mention means to speak and act on behalf of, right?
Sure. Another voice.
Well, yeah, add another. You've been taught now how to do it, and to keep silent is not what he wants from us. Our mandate is to go out there and be the manifest image of Yahweh himself here on earth. And how do we do that? First, we have to learn to obey and surrender to him, and then speak it out. Mention it to other people.
Just for what it's worth, one of the ways I break down words is by looking at the two-letter word group. So if this is Zion Kaf Resh, if you look at Zion Kaf and then look at Kaf Resh, and I'm saying this while we're waiting for whoever it was that wanted to make a comment that hasn't made your comment yet, you're welcome to make a comment. But if you look at Zion Kaf, it means purity, or to become Zion Kaf Hey is to be clear or clean or pronounced innocent, like a judge will give an acquittal, grant somebody the right or title. And then if you look at Kaf Resh, that's also on page 198. If you look at Kaf Resh, which is over on page 285, Kaf Resh is a saddle or a pasture or meadow, he lamb or battering ram. That's all Kaf Resh. Kaf Resh Hey is to dig, to buy or trade or give a feast, a banquet. So by putting that together, you could say, well, if Kaf Resh Hey is a battering ram or a lamb, a banquet, a meadow, a saddle you ride around in the open range. In Zion, Kaf is to be clear, clean, or to be acquitted and granted a title. It's like the guy that has been acquitted, absolved of any guilt or shame, and given the right as an owner or a deputy to hop on the horse and ride around the ranch, which might go on for millions of acres. Who knows? I mean, the heavenlies. Because you represent the battering ram. You've got the name of Yahweh, and it says in one of the Psalms, I believe, that he owns not only the cattle on the 1,000 hills, but he owns the hills and he owns everything. And talk about a feast and a banquet. It's like, do you know who it is that we are signing up for? To be in league with him, to take on his name. And to say to take on his name is to remember everything he's about, which is exactly what we've been talking about. And so when he says, do not lift up his name unto vanity, that's the third commandment. And the whole elaboration that we're doing here, the reason I read Deuteronomy 4 is because Moshe was telling the people, remember who this guy is, and remember what he's done for our forefathers, and remember that we have to think of it present tense, not ancient past. And to make it present is to flower like this blossom of the bird of paradise, the tree of life. It will happen for us today the same way it happened for them after they wandered for 40 years with dying. This is all a remembrance of present tense. we remember the past because it's, as we talked about before, play on words, back to the future. We walk back to the future with our back towards the future by looking at the past and harboring its present life in our mind as an is, as in right now, as in an ehie. It just is. And there's something about remembering is an active tool like watering the seed. To remember is a catalyst of life. And somehow that connection, like the male seed planting tool, there's something about us remembering is what causes these words on the page to retain, to activate like a dormant seed of life. Anyway, go ahead. The other, I don't want to take this whole time of me talking. This was supposed to be of your guys mulling and providing what your thoughts have been over the last week or two here that you were contemplating the 10 Commandments.
And for the benefit for us now, but also for the benefit of future generations, that they may be in a blessing.
It's generation after generation. There's something
Right.
about this Shem Zakar. It's not just for this generation. Yahweh, it says in another place that the reason Yahweh chose Abraham is because he saw, or he observed Abraham. He noticed that Abraham had a propensity for teaching and that Abraham would teach his children. That's why he chose Abraham. Yahuwah wants this teaching, the Lamed Eng, to happen. That is an evidence of his kingdom, not just meditating or soaking in his words, but teaching. He wants there to be this real-time verbal engagement of us, you might say, telling each other or bearing witness of each other about the exact words that he said, not just the other things about what he said, but what he said. Anyway, there was somebody that, Kurt, you had said their hand up. Did they ever get a chance to?
They're on the call. I think they might have accidentally raised their hand. So I put their hand down. I didn't know I could do that. But
Julie, was there anything else that you contemplated about the zakar that you want to throw in just for the sake of other people engaging that? Or Paul, did you, or Julie, did you, or anybody?
Julie,
Julie, you're
your
on mute.
mic's muted.
See, Kurt has to go through and edit out all this stuff so that it flows.
Well, it looks like we're called to be testifiers, witnesses, testifiers, and he's the now, or the joiner.
Right. So that's looking at the Hey Vav Hey, which is another way to picture the the way a church is designed, with the steeple that rises up, that pinnacle in the middle with the two houses on both sides, is exactly the picture that you're talking about. Just like a menorah, the one center with the two sets of wings on either side. It's the same picture. So I mentioned that about this church steeple because when Michael Rood brought that up, that's some sort of a pagan phallic thing, and Jim Staley also talks about, they're kind of missing the point that it's also Yod Vav He. And there's something about it which is perfectly zak, clean and pure. It's not just some prostitution of the of religion.
Hallelujah. Never a truer word said. It's he just wants to take away what's good. Yahuwah has created things which are good, and Satan, Satan, or the accuser, just wants to steal what's good. And religion returns us to bondage. We get mindsets we have got to break out of to see life again. It's it's improving these things, improving these things we get to live. Prove all things. We have to prove what we're learning now.
You could even say that, like in England and France and other places in Europe, they made these great cathedrals with this huge center spire that goes up, and then the like flying buttress works alongside them to keep the thing stable. And I saw this video that was suggesting those were actually built as a way of generating or conducting electricity, which was a different thing that got turned into cathedral churches. Either way, the point is they are a picture of Hevav He, and Hevav He is a verb of existence. It exists. There's something about that architectural structure, which architectural is very symbolic, numerous different ways, which is a whole study. But to be able to see into it, Yahweh's glory is different than just only seeing profanity wherever you look. Go ahead, whoever it was speaking there.
All the remembrance of war heroes are done with obelisk, just a sign of lost virility and strength and power, sacrificed for nations. You get this jolly obelisk put up there, which tries to emulate Baal rather than the father of creation. It's a terrible shame that we don't know who our father really is and how he thinks, and I don't want to play with words too much, but if there's enough testifying, your Vav could very soon turn into a Kuth, if you get my impression there.
It was interesting. The word, Karen, my wife, noticed one day that the word Cain, Kaf Yod Nun, I believe is the way you spell the word Cain, as in Cain and Abel, and that it means to rise up and strike. And if you look in the dictionary, it doesn't say rise up and strike. Here, I'll find it real quick. But so this is the case with different names of people in the Bible. You say, okay, Adam and Hua named this guy Hebel and Cain. Cain, page 577, Kuf Yod Nun means to fit together or fabricate or forge. There's nothing wrong with that. It's being a metalsmith. There's nothing wrong with that. That's like Aleph Mem Nun, and it's also like the Het Shin Bet, I think is the word, or Het Bet Shin. Anyway, in the four craftsmen or metalsmiths of Zechariah chapter 2. And it also means spear. So why did they name him Cain? But the letter Kuf literally means to rise up, and the letter Yod is this hand of power, and then the letter Nun is like this lightning bolt. So to rise up and strike, kind of like a rattlesnake, it sits there curled up, and then it rises up its head like Kuf and boom, nails. It's like, so is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's not even in the definition that you find in the dictionary, but it can also be reading the letters. And so did Cain play into the meaning of his name, or did they give him the wrong name? And the word Hebel, which I believe is Het Bet Lamed, means transitory and to turn into nothing. It's like, gosh, Abel died with no offspring that we're told about, and he just disappears, his name, his heritage. So even the word Balaam means he has a mouth, but he's not one of our people. And it's like, he was a genuine prophet, but he wasn't of Israel. He sided with the Moabites against Israel, kind of, sort of, but Yahweh still gave him favor of some regard. And it's like, so what I'm saying is that some of the names of Hebrew people, we don't know whether they were named that because of the story, as if it was a tag named afterwards, or that was actually the name they were given and they just played into it. There's two ways to read it. Maybe they're both true. I don't know. But so you're talking about the Vav man, comes back to life and ascends is the word, to rise up and shine, like Kumi Ori, Kumi, Kufav Mem Yod, but also he went up into the heavenlies, like the circle, the round part of the Kuf, and then he comes back, the vertical, like our letter Q, Hamakom is the place. So even the palace or the temple was called Hamakom, the place, like the jurisdiction, the temple, the palace, the pavilion. It's just called the place, like Haaretz, the place.
We've got to end, Eric. Sorry, I don't mean to be rude. We got to end.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, we have to end. We got to call it good. We got to pray. Somebody's got to pray.
What? We're at the end already?
We've done 3.5 hours, bro. I want to keep it to 2, and we're at 3.5. So
Was there anybody else that wanted to say anything or contribute to the 10 Commandments? Gosh.
We barely touched them. Might have to come back.
We could talk about them again next week if you want. Is there anything else that any of you guys wanted to address?
I was hoping that we could have the discussion about the Sabbath or the Shabbat. So if that could be put on the list of topics to discuss in the future, I would love that.
What aspect?
Determining the day is my inquiry.
Okay.
I can tell you just from what I've learned and what I've seen, you mentioned it earlier, just every word from every language is correlated to Shabbat, Saturday. Even the word Saturn in Hebrew has a root in Shabbat. I know a lot of people going with different calendars and doing Tuesday and this and that just because of the whole Saturn thing. But if you look at just the word itself, it definitely has to do with Shabbat, 7 days, Sabado.
but we can set that for another time and come back and dig into it really heavy because I have to end this call. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Kurt's got things he's got to do too. So.
Well,
Okay.
plus,
Thanks, Kurt.
it takes a long time to edit. So I'll end in prayer. Thank you, Father, for bringing us together, for remembering us in the dispersion. Thank you for people watching, asking questions, being curious, wanting to dig in, and thank you for that we're able to keep your Shabbat and not be shot yet, Father. And just keep everybody safe from this vaccine thing.
Hallelujah.
I believe you're going to. I believe you're going to protect us as long as we keep the Shabbat of all things, Father. You chose the simplest thing to do, and that's the thing that we're struggling with the most. It's fascinating. Thank you, Hope, for these people. In Yahushua's name, I pray. Amen.
Hallelujah.
Thank you.
Man,
Thank you, Kurt.
have a great week, and hopefully we'll see you again next week.
Right on. You guys can
Until next week. Bye for now.
stay on and chat amongst yourselves if you want to.
Okay.
I'm just gonna
Thanks,
stop
Mark.
recording.
I'm gonna leave. Thanks, guys.